Welcome back, OPL fans, to the final best of 3 of OPL Week 2, of course, brought to you by Hungry Jacks. You're getting a look at series. Top laner this week of Legacy going to be going up against Tectonic. And this best of 3 for me is another one of those things that if Legacy get through this 2-0, then they would still have gone 2-0-2-0 the first 2 weeks without a superstar Korean import in Mimic, and Series filling the role pretty well.
Yeah, you did mention Series there, specifically at the end of the desk. They did import that Korean Mimic coming over, and he's filled in amicably, I think. We saw him on AV last season, but filling in here and, yeah, getting through that first part of the season unscathed before they bring in arguably their biggest investment over the 2018 season.
Not arguably. I mean, just on the down low, he's an exciting player to watch play League of Legends. That's all I will give away, is that you should eagerly anticipate any Legacy match, because Mimic, to me, is definitely the real deal.
Where'd you get that one from, mate?
No idea.
Oh, you just, your baseless
checking
opinion?
him out.
Okay.
Of course, Legacy versus Tectonic is the best of 3 that we're going to see. Mimic is on the left there, will not be playing, Series will be. But it's Tectonic where we want to spend majority of our time, because last week against Order, lots of bans towards Shock, still got an Urgot and arguably made it work like 5-0, but this is a team that isn't necessarily playing to their strengths.
Yeah, 100% I think. Talking about their bot side of the map here, Low and Tilting coming out very weak performance last weekend. And I think if you look at their roster, Shock, the man on your screen right now, arguably their best player, and then 2 newbies coming in Paprise and Swave. They played fairly well. We were complimenting Swave all last game, sorry. On that Sejuani, blocking the Zac, blocking Spooks' engages. Paprise fared fairly well against Tally in the top lane, was bullying him around, couldn't do enough. Similar to, just going to roast Parbu right now, similar to what Parbu did yesterday, could bully around big sweeps, but couldn't get enough of an advantage. As he's having shedding a single tear over on the couch there.
And we see the mid laners head-to-head here, because Claire is another player that last year was playing a lot of support, obviously got a Ryzen and Azir game, looks to be incredibly excited. I've always been a massive Claire fan. But Shock is someone that I think came in, was known for Zillion, was known for off picks, was high elo, but I think in the Azir game, looked good. And I think, and this is my personal opinion, he needs to stop being put on his cheese pick and needs to have some priority in the draft, because I don't know if it's an arguable conversation anymore. He is their best player.
Yeah, 100%. Coming through last season, we did see a lot of those picks on that Zillion like he was known for, but
Zillion Karma was like all he played, a little bit of Orianna.
In terms of pro player opinion, you do kind of get a lot of that from scrims, but even in solo queue in the specific 1v1 matchups, he's a player where pro players like queue up and you're like, okay, I got Shock mid. Like, he's not the best mid on the server, but he's good. He's very valuable. He will be a good player there. So he does have an extensive champion pool. We don't necessarily see it because of the way Tectonic do draft. So interesting to see if they can get that out. And I do want to expand on what I was saying before. And I do think, in my eyes at least, obviously Tectonic might have a different opinion. They're picking things like the Karma. They're playing towards the bot side of the map, and I just don't think the bot side of the map is going to win them the game. They did play Shen the second game and did fare better. That was the Urgot as well. And yeah, I want them to switch it up. I want to see this weekend. I want to see this game versus Legacy. I want to see that shift.
Yeah, I completely agree. When you have a look at it, they kind of have 2 options, and that is either shore up their weakness or, you know, start plugging holes in their boat, or they can just try and row faster on the top side of the map and hope they don't sink. And I think that at a certain point, you've plugged enough holes, and that was kind of what their gameplay looked like.
You're still stuck in the ocean.
Yeah,
you're
still in the ocean. You're still not going anywhere. But at the same time, let's throw it over to Parbu and Laura to get their thoughts on this game.
Thanks, Jake. We're back for Series 2 now, Parbu. We have Legacy going up against Tectonic. Who's going to take this series and why?
I think Legacy will take the 2 games quite easily, but I don't think they'll be nearly as clean or as quick as the games before us. The players are a lot more evenly matched compared to the Direwolves games, and so yeah, I think it'll be a bit messy, but still pretty quick.
What do you think the series score is going to be? 2-0?
2-0 to Legacy, definitely.
I'm going to give it a 2-0 to Legacy as well. But remember, if you would like to make your own predictions at home, head on over to opltips.com.au. We've got XP boosts, we've got RP prizes, and we have some tasty $25, $50, and $100 Hungry Jacks vouchers. For more information, make sure you head on over to the website at opltips.com.au. Also, our friend here, Parbu, is going to be answering some questions very shortly. They don't have to be top related. They can be top related. If you've ever wanted to ask him anything, this is now your chance. So if you have a question, make sure you tweet at us at the OPL Twitter account at OPL. Thanks for your prediction, Parbu. But to get this series underway, let's hand it over to your casters.
Thanks so much, guys. So a quick, messy series is what Parbu expects out of this. Do you agree?
No. I think, honestly, I think Legacy I do agree with him on the 2-0 there, but coming into this matchup for Tectonic, I think last weekend they played Order, and I think Order have shown that they are the quickest team in the OPL. They were just picking Zach, they were picking Ali, they were just go the entire time.
Quote unquote head ramming.
Head ramming, 100%.
Sorry, you missed that on camera. I did that. But yeah, so I agree. They at the moment they seem to want to pick engage and want to run it down mid a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. And then you look at Legacy, right? Their game versus Sin. Sin. First game did have that early advantage. We were talking about it a lot in the last series, but they were the ones being proactive. Legacy were just fine to just sit there. They were just chilling. They were farming up on the Azir, farming up on their carries. They've had Braum both games in that bottom lane. Decoy, very good performance, and they were just playing back, playing defensive, waiting for that opportunity. So in terms of, I do think there is a significant mismatch between these two teams, but Tectonic will have that opening, I think, in the early stage of the game to try something, right? To try and get something going on the top side with Paprise and Swathe.
All right, we'll see where they can do it. As we bring the lineup on your screen, we'll start off with Legacy. It's going to be Series up in the top lane. Civil is their jungler. Claire is now their captain and their mid laner. Raid is their AD carry. Decoy their support. Of course, Lucio Soulstrikes is going to be their coach. And across Summoner's Rift, it's going to be Tectonic. Paprise is their top laner. Swathe in the jungle. Shock in the mid lane. Low and Tilting is their bottom lane. And Johnny Cyclone is their coach. Very nice picture of Cyclone there. Very handsome man. Model-esque.
Yep. He's going to a business meeting right now. Look at him. He's got that cheeky grin. He's like about to give a presentation and he's standing there.
That grin is like the I know something you don't know grin. That's kind of when Johnny gives you that smirk. It's like, I'm about to pull out Ergot mid lane.
He needs to be on like an advertisement, like a toothbrush, you know what I mean? Like he's just selling, he's at the dentist's office and he's like, yes, Colgate, like ding, and he's got that picture perfect smile there. There he is. He needs to iron his shirt, though. Come on, Johnny. What are you doing?
I actually thought he looked quite good. You know, top button done up.
A few crinkles all over the place.
All right, cool. I want to talk about Claire. Because Fantic's last split for me, undisputed best mid laner. Actually, probably undisputed best player on the server.
Yep.
And I think that Swiffer, Claire, Ryoma, and Triple now are in the conversation for best mid laner.
Yep.
Can Brandon, Claire, take that step and become the best mid laner in the OPL?
I think so. I think so. I 100% think he has potential. And this is the Legacy lineup to give him the platform for that potential to shine. I think he's the kind of player that could have that transition to greatness this season, coming back from Korea, not having to play around Lost every single game. We've mentioned it every time we talk about Legacy, just picking the Karma, picking the Orianna. And I think this is a good test case in that game versus Shock.
So what does he have to do to therefore take that mantle? Is it about how you perform with your team? Is it individual greatness? I mean, you know, people like Faker, Bjergsen get thrown around for all different reasons. Is winning the most crucial thing in cementing yourself as the best mid laner? Like, how do you go about this?
Well, I think stylistically, Azir, as they're hovering right now, is the kind of champion that he needs to be playing, and the Victor. He's not the kind of, I will dominate lane player like Faker, right? Just picks the LeBlanc, ganks you like level 2, level 3, and he will just pummel you in the laning phase and apply so much pressure. He's much more similar to Fantix in the way he played last season. So I think that's the avenue where I think he will strive. Big on the Victor, big on the Azir. Second game we've seen from him so far.
Because I know Fantix was a player, and we will get into pick ban in a second, but they're not going all that quick. Fantix was one of those players that as he started building leads, people started getting more nervous. Because you knew already with equal gold, he was going to arguably do more. Then when you gave him more gold, and he was such a good CS'er, that it was like a vacuum. Like everyone was just getting pulled mid, and it was like, we got to do something about this because otherwise he's a time bomb waiting to go off.
And the biggest thing in terms of carry threats and players that do get a large gold share for their team is how safe they are with that gold. It doesn't matter if you've got a 5-0-0 Corki with 300 CS. If he's just going to Valkyrie into the middle of a team fight at one stage and throw it all away, and then just reset the game for the other opponents. So Fantix, in that regard, a very safe player. He just accrued that lead over time and did output a significant amount of damage, but was never caught off guard too many times.
So in similar vein, we want Claire to be able to farm up. We want him to get to the 2 to 3 items stage on the Azir and be able to dominate Shock and the Tectonic lineup in team fights. Let's go through the bans. It's going to be Cogmore. It's going to be Alawi thrown at Paprise. It's going to be an Ergot thrown at Shock. And then it's going to be Nard, Galio, and Callista taken off the board by Tectonic. Azir, Braum, Ezreal on the side of Legacy picked up. Gangplank, Jarvan, Sivir picked up for the bottom lane. So maybe more of a wave clear duty bottom lane here.
I do like this out of Tectonic. We've already seen. But the big thing was the support picks. It was the Karma instead of the traditional tanks right now that we do see in the meta. So I guess Sivir is a good start, but seeing what they pair that with,
I mean, arguably you can go Sivir Karma and just cue the wave over and over again, shove it out, and then you're not playing around that lane.
And then you got real quick run away.
Real quick run away.
Extra E and then the Sivir ulti, and you're zooming. You're out of there.
And it's going to be Jace ban and a Xerath ban.
Xerath, something we saw a great deal of in the preseason with the Rune 3 forwards coming out. Comet.
Also counterpicked to Azir historically when Azir was massive in the mid lane.
Can match his range. You sit there flinging the Qs around. If you land a stun, you can get your whole combo.
So Juani taken off the board as well, away from Sybil. So Swathe not going to be picking that one up. Of course, Jarvan you would expect to go into that position for the Tectonic lineup.
And this is the first game of the day that we have seen the Galio at all in Champs League. Hasn't been picked or banned so far, and that does get banned away by Tectonic there. So Legacy obviously do play that one.
Yep.
And they don't want to give them that proactivity.
And it's going to be Karma taken away.
Hey.
So actually giving some respect to Tilting, or maybe saying, hey mate, what else do you play?
Yeah.
See if they can set up a bit of a kill threat there with jungler plus Brawl.
Honestly, his Shen looked much better than his Karma. I'm surprised they throw the respect at that. That was like a 0-9 Karma performance there, but does pick up the Janna, so similar style, but in terms of all the Mage and Chanter supports, Janna is the best one right now. She stylistically matches up really well to the tanks. You have so much disengage, and it's not only disengage, it's reset potential for a team fight, right? You not only heal up your allies, shield them, but you knock the enemies away. And when you have something like a Kha'Zix dashing in, if Azir goes for the old, what do you call it, the swoop and scoop, and you can interrupt that one with your ulti and knock him away, and that's a big deal.
Certainly is. And finally, Ornn, last pick, gets all the way through pick ban, will be up there in the top lane. Kha'Zix will be the jungler of the choice for Legacy. So Azir, Ornn, Ezreal. I would say that's a safe composition picked up for the Legacy lineup.
Ooh, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's see the Zoe.
Is a counter pick.
Oh, come on. No, go back. Come on, Shock.
I mean, Cassiopeia matches the DPS.
Veiga. Hey. Oh, no, we've done it again.
Veiga?
Talia, Veiga. What is it?
That one I actually don't know.
I'm going to say Veiga because that's what I've always said, but is a notable counter pick to the Azir there. Has that cage. You can just lock him around. What do you mean, Ornn?
Pawn.
Oh, Pawn. Okay, but you were saying Ornn as in, like, how do I pronounce Ornn? And I'm like, there's only one way to say it, man.
No, you don't say Ornn?
Ornn?
Yeah, but no, Pawn showed us this counter pick.
Yep, he did.
The reason it is such a good counter pick is because if you have a Jarvan, you just don't even need to hit the stun. You just put him in the middle of the baby cage and he can't get out.
Yeah. Cataclysm just overlays straight on top, but unfortunately, I think it was last week we saw Pawn pick that one into Crown and then got dumpstered, and then in a reverse matchup had the same thing. He picked the Veiga into himself.
Yep.
Yikes.
Bit of a yikes, but you have to say, this draft, a little bit more what we expected. Gangplank top lane.
Yep. 100%.
Carry threat in the mid lane that will blow up one of 3 members on that team. If Kha'Zix jumps in, takes the ultimate, he'll probably die. Azir will probably die. Ezreal will probably die.
And this is just a much more expected game out of both these teams, honestly. First set of the day, we did see the Yasuo, something coming out of left field, but here Legacy picks themselves a pretty safe composition. Yep. Overall, they have the Azir, they have the Ezreal to just scale up. But then, as you said, on the likes of Tectonic, they are shifting that pressure to the top side. Gangplank, Veiga, they do have that passive bot lane, just going to play the non-interaction game, just going to shove it in, just going to keep the enemies at bay with those tornadoes.
Spellbook as well out of Sivir. One of the things Sivir can do at the moment, which is really annoying, is farm up a pickaxe, come back to lane with TP, and then you never match the shot.
Yep.
Ever.
That's obnoxious.
Janna shield plus pickaxe, pretty much your BF sword, and just sit under your turret for the whole game.
Yep, and I think Tiger's the only AD carry to take Spellbook in the league so far. So this would be not the first, but the second time we'll see it.
If we see it.
If we see it.
Yep.
Always the potential to just go straight for the fleet footwork or something else like that.
Yeah, as we see a big 5-stack invade. We do have a coach interview alongside,
land.
but we want to stay here for a second. Flash burnt by Swathe. Had to flash it as soon as he got hit by that Q. However, Laura is standing alongside with Soul Strikes.
Thanks, guys. I'm standing here with Soul Strikes. Now, last week, we saw that Tectonic snuck through unique champions in their drafts. Was this something you planned around in your preparation for this week?
Yeah, they played a lot of interesting picks, and we just banned a lot of outliers that might potentially give them like a comfort pick.
We saw that you banned the Xerath and the Urgot. Are these something that you see as a danger, or are you just pushing Shock off his comfort champions?
It's definitely, Shock's been playing a lot of Urgot in solo queue, and he did really well against Swiffer last week, and we don't really verse Urgot much in scrim, so just getting rid of all these outliers will bring comfort for Brandon.
Well, taking a look at Tectonic's lineup today, what's the biggest threat you can see?
I would say both Swathe and Shock has been like their star players, and it'll be very interesting to see how the rookie Swathe plays out.
Well, best of luck with the series, and thank you for talking to us.
All right, thank you.
And I like that. He says, you know, just remove uncertainty. I think
Big
that
comfort man,
Yeah.
Soulstrike.
I mean, Soul Strikes is an interesting guy because he is a Korean speaker and does watch a lot of the Korean casters version of the LCK and does have access to obviously that information out there as we see series bullying around Paparazzi just a little bit early on in this game. Ooh, actually stops that auto attack as well, so wins the trade very handily. What I was going to say though is, so therefore is very big on the LCK, whereas I hear a lot of teams and coaches and stuff say, you know, Oceania is a little bit more like the LPL, a little bit more fight heavy. You can't really replicate the LCK because they're just so much more disciplined than us. And I think this is a draft that, you know, this is a pretty standard 2-threat, couple of tank comp draft, and see whether they can play that patient game, because that's what we expect out of Legacy. I agree with you that Legacy is not a, you know, smash them team. They're a grinded out team. They're very methodical, very slow and patient. So it will be interesting as we're going to have a face check here.
Isolation damage will come out, Swathe.
Yeah, this is a lot of damage, and Swathe is going to have to flag drag away. Viger Cage does go down, but he flashes on top of him. Swathe doesn't have the flash from earlier on in the game, and Sybil picks up a kill.
And Sybil, nice prep there. Sitting in wait, knew that Swathe was going to face check that one, and as you said, because of that flash at level 1, didn't have that available, and just goes down first blood over to Sybil.
Yeah, and what Sybil actually sacrificed there was a camp. He was jungling slower. Yep. So you can see that he was willing to bank on the fact that Swathe would invade. Obviously some very good prep potentially from last week's VODs, and they're able to pick that up. It will be a spellbook Siva picked up, as well as a spellbook Viger. Viger doesn't need any help in killing people.
Yep. So infinite scaling on his Q there, can get just obscene amounts of AP. If we see an Oceanic 94-minute game, then he's going to be absolutely popping off.
Wonder if he took... What's that? Ooh, actually gets it down. Misses the stun just, which means the big meteor will not hit. What's that weird thing called that you get extra stats every 10 minutes? Something Storm.
Oh, Gathering Storm.
Gathering Storm. Wonder if he's a Gathering Storm Viger player.
Potentially. I mean, they do have the disengage and the safety of the Janna Siva bot lane, so they can deal with waves.
He's a minion dematerializer Viger.
Yep. Can QW the front line and W the back line and kill them all. But yeah, they do have the capacity to stall this game out. Legacy don't have a lot of proactivity. Their support is Braum, more of a defensive pick instead of an engage. They do have the Ornn available, but that's about it.
Yep.
So in terms of, if he is going for that Gathering Storm Vega, he can get ridiculous amounts of APs, potentially.
We see a big invade coming out here, and Sybil, if he just sits in that brush, will not be swept out. Swathe needs to know something is up, however, and face checking Kha'Zix is one of the most terrifying things ever. Giving Kha'Zix any brush control is actually terrifying.
Absolutely. With that stealth, obviously, but even just because you have to use your dash to get away if you face check and you're in melee range, and a lot of the times...
I mean, you don't have to. You can fight him. You use your dash to try and knock him up and try and kill him.
Yep, but...
Good luck.
I reckon, yeah, good luck with that one. The bug's pretty strong while you're one in the jungle, but the problems that Kha'Zix has is closing the gap between himself and another champion, right? He has to jump in, and then he's committed, and all he has is his flash to follow up. So if he's already in melee range, he can follow you, as we saw before, with that dash and then the flash, picked himself up first blood. Swathe does not want to see that one happening again.
And talk to me about Sybil, because he was a player that looked like he was going to be a mainstay on Direwolves forever.
Yep.
Obviously, was not the case. Flag drag into the mid lane from Swathe. Actually gets Claire very low. Willy flash this time. Cancelled auto. I feel he's going to cost him that summoner spell. And Shock was very low, so Swathe just going to come in and help him shove this one out.
I don't think Claire would have died to that one there. Potentially could have meant that Swathe followed up. He does have his flash right now, so could have hit him with that auto Q flash. But unfortunately did miss that auto, as you said, hit the minions. So Claire just walks away ultimately. But he's sitting here right now. Has Comet, so can't TP back to lane with that spellbook, and obviously very low health, very low mana.
Yeah, but just sticking around, confident they can't dive in, and I agree with his confidence there. As we see Swathe actually using that tempo to try and get himself a camp, but not going to be the case, as Viger is also quite low. However, now with level 6, potentially can just flash forward, Q ulti, and try and pick up a kill there. Yeah, so talk to me about Sybil. He's kind of bounced around a couple of teams now. Veteran jungler status. How good is he, do you think, in terms of Oceanic junglers? What's his strengths and weaknesses?
I think he's definitely middle of the pack. You have the likes of Spooks and Schernfire above him, but over the course of time he spent in the OPL, you have to give him benefit of the doubt over the newcomers like Swathe before they play the rest of the season. I guess we'll find out where he fits in, but he's a very interesting player because stylistically he's big on the solo queue, and that's where you kind of see how a player wants to play because they're not limited to what their team wants to do, that sort of stuff. So he's a big Elise player, a big Lee Sin player, but then in competitive you see him notably known for the Sejuani, for the Zac, so unfortunately for him, he finds himself in these situations where he's playing on these champions that he doesn't necessarily like too much, but now on the Kha'Zix here, this game does suit his strengths, I believe, and already has that advantage, so I guess we'll see how he tracks for the rest of the game, but had a pretty inconsistent split last season with AV, and now finds himself on Legacy.
Yeah, and it was, I think, Winter when I saw Sybil play against, maybe it wasn't Winter. It was a tournament that I saw him play against Carbon. And Carbon was invading him very aggressively, and Sybil was actually dealing with it quite well. And at that stage of time, I mean, say what you will about Carbon's ladder splits, but in 2014 was an absolute monster. And Sybil dealt with it very well. So Jungler I've always had a lot of respect for, but interesting to see him flit around a couple of teams.
I think pre-Schernfire Direwolves, when Sybil was on that team, they were a very defensive team, notably. They played for the late game, they just scaled up and they just wanted to 1-3-1. And Sybil is a jungler that's very good at defending his lanes.
Okay.
And then you bring in someone like Schernfire, who's the opposite, who wants to be invading and wants to be ganking.
Yeah, he would. Schern would not be happy if his team was like, our game plan is to have all 3 lanes push into us.
Yeah.
Schern would say, no, it's not.
Absolutely not. So Sybil does find himself navigating around those situations quite well. And in this game, Swathe doing a little bit of invading, but Sybil being able to stave it up. Does have that kill, but is down 2 camps right now.
Yeah, exactly right. But he kept him out, and now has been able to get himself a slight experience lead. Hands off that blue buff there, and Shock actually takes a lot of his health bar as damage. Going a very aggressive Viger build. We used to see Vigers go like a mana item and then just go straight Banshee's Veil. Because really, doesn't need all that much health in the AP department, and then go something like silly, like a straight out Void Staff.
Yeah.
And just rely on his Q for AP. As we see Sybil go into a brush.
Fortunately, walking over the pink there, so the stealth doesn't mean too much. Swathe is a little bit behind, but we have to mention the bot lane right now. Sybil's probably not going to get a whole lot done, but this performance out of Tectonic's bot lane, low and tilting there, sitting very even. CS is just about exactly the same right here.
What they did is they teleported back with a BF sword, and now there's that hard. You saw what Sybil was trying to do. He's like, I'm going to get you this wave pushed out. And Swathe mirrored it, and then he's like, oh, I'm not going to. And now you've got a BF sword, Janna. Ooh, I was going to say that can take a couple of pot shots at your turret, but they don't stick around for it, which I think in this playstyle is a little bit of a mistake because they have massive tempo advantage.
They do have massive tempo advantage, but resetting here does retain some of that tempo, whereas pushing it in and then getting the later base means that Legacy do have that window to walk up toward the bot side jungle when they are in lane and your opponents aren't. So
they go back and they actually swap back out for heal again as we see series going forward. Good trade down onto Paprise. He's up 20 CS. Which is a much better punish, but still no kills in the top lane, no setup ganks. And the fact that it's only a 500 gold lead right now, and there's a 10 CS lead in the mid lane, and a kill going down, means that Gangplank is probably still even in gold. And lo and behold, he's actually ahead. This champion is very frustrating to watch a competitive play.
Are you a Gangplank fan, Jake?
I hate
can't
Gangplank.
tell. I just can't tell, man. Just can't do it. But
you've actually, and to be fair, it's not like I hate him because I'm bad at it. Because you've seen me actually have a couple of good Gangplank games.
Yeah, I have.
I'm just not a fan of his playstyle.
This Decoy, you know what I am a fan of? The Legacy Braum skin. If you're on any other team and you're using the ugly green-coloured Braum, then it's a mistake. But because he's on Legacy, Cupcake did it when he was around on Legacy, and Decoy's doing it again. Hits him up with a Chroma Pack. Of course, I subscribe to the thought process that is, if a champion has a Chroma Pack, then you should be using it.
You certainly do. How much of the game is actually dictated by skins?
Absolutely none. What do you mean?
Absolutely
no competitive advantage whatsoever.
But is that the case? Like, I mean, obviously they don't make you stronger, but if you only play Bloodlord Vladimir, and then for some reason you don't pick it, that's a competitive disadvantage, right?
I think it is. Absolutely. It's for the individual. It doesn't give you an edge over the opponents, but I play Samsung White Thresh, and if I lead into a game with default Thresh, then I will perform worse. Because I feel like some champions, the auto-attack animations are slightly better. I think Super Galaxy Rumble is one of those skins that every top laner says is literally better than every
Just
other
because
skin.
he actually swings his arm as opposed to donking things on the head with his weird pineapple or
and
whatever it
also,
is.
I'm not too sure of the specifics, but it's something to do with the waves of his flamethrower there as well, with his...
Yeah, you can actually see the
Flame
tick.
spitter?
Actually, yeah, I've had this conversation as well with people. I think that Pulsefire Ezreal is the same. Lots of people were like, Pulsefire Ezreal's cool, and then they'll like, actually his auto attack
real
animation
clunky.
real clunky.
Real clunky. So yeah, for the individual, if you use a skin every single game of your life and then you play one without it, it does feel pretty bad. But in terms of an edge over your opponents, it's
Non-existent.
non-existent. But maybe that's why Faker does it. Because there's only potential downside if you ever mess up your skin choice. If he just never chooses, he's just always default. Maybe that's why he's so good. I just figured it out. I'm a
Never
genius.
choose a skin and you'll be as good as Faker. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Absolutely. Actually, absolutely not. I disagree. You have to use cool skins. Don't use ugly skins.
Yeah, that I agree with. I'm a big cool skin fan. But I also, this is where we disagree, is I think sometimes ugly skins are cool.
Yeah, Swamp Master Cannon.
Yeah, Swamp Master Cannon, like
Ugliest
Shamrock
skin.
Malphite,
Yep.
Blue Jacket Shen, like stuff like that. Like you could go, what I don't think it's Warren King. Blood Moon Shen. Blood Moon Shen is so cool. Or you can go just like plain Blue Jacket Shen, and I'll choose Blue Jacket Shen every single time. As we see finally a proactive move coming out of Legacy. Quite a slow early game as we said we would expect, but they send 4 members down into the bottom lane. Gangplank ultimate to hold, and also to just farm an extra wave to get himself a little bit more of a gold advantage.
Got to farm his own lane and the bot lane, but they do stave off that push there. And as you said, yeah, fairly slow early game. And it's very surprising to load into a competitive match and see Legacy make the first proactive play, but against Tectonic here, they do pull the trigger on that one.
I think they have to as one more time. Sway, this time without his EQ available, will
Has
be
flash?
caught out in the jungle. Has flash, goes back in, and they're actually going to look for their kill. Sybil turns around, flashes back over the wall, and picks it up. However, trades this one with Shock in the mid lane. Giving a kill to Viger for a kill on Sybil, I'm going to say not worth.
And you do have to think Swathe there questioned the decision of holding his flash and using the stopwatch, but did bring Shock over. Sybil on the back end of that does commit his life for the kill there as Paprise is looking to steal away a blue buff.
Yeah, and that's even bigger if you give up tempo, if you give up a blue buff into Gangplank, and this solves many of Gangplank's problems. He can just infinitely sustain. However, this time, Siri's going to look for him, and already Shock coming up into this top lane. However, Wemfrey's, and this is what I'm talking about, now all of a sudden, Paprise can just take this poor trade, although maybe not, because he has to
burn the flash.
Yeah, eats, gets out. I don't think he had to flash.
Potentially not, and also does give you the CDR and that mana to just spam W, heal you
Look
up in
at
lane.
Siri's mana.
Yep, used everything.
Used everything there.
And Legacy sort of had that inkling because Ceres was walking down the river and Claire was walking over to the blue buff, so they thought maybe, despite not having vision, they were like, maybe he's on our blue.
And I think this early game is tick to Tectonic. I think that if you pick yourself Sivajana and you don't die, big tick, I would argue much more useful in team fights. If you pick yourself, you know, a scaling mid laner, he's got a kill. Scaling top laner, he's farming completely even, is actually up in gold at this point of the game. And really the only person that has been bullied a little bit is your jungler. You would take this early game. If I said you can start the game at 15 minutes, actually Swade's going to be caught out one more time, flag drag out, you would take it.
100% improvement from last week.
Teleport
Legacy
actually coming in, and this is big. Shock
No
now
flash.
caught out. No flash available. Uses that stopwatch, and actually the flash over the wall from Tilting, and he dies as well. Sybil nearly looking to go down. Swathe potentially looking for the Q there, and I think that is the first misplay out of Tectonic.
100% Tilting go in there for the hero play, but as we said, Shock, no flash available. So despite getting the fight reset by Tilting, can't get out anyway. They both lose their lives.
Potentially, if Shock had had enough time to get his ulti off there, maybe onto someone like Sybil or Claire, could have forced the trade kill, but they just really well timed there from Legacy. And Legacy is a team that has just always done the basics well. And you can see one more time, they're pushing in on mid lane turret. Paprise has to use that ulti again. Wasn't used on the invade.
And he hasn't had to ulti top, which is pretty interesting. He's just used the ulti on the bot lane, on the mid lane to hold those turrets. He's done a very good job sitting up here. Only about a wave behind now, as he will catch this one and even it out a little bit. But I feel like the only downside, as you were mentioning, for Tectonic, this is a marked improvement from last week. But in saying that, their only frontline member in the Jarvan is weak. He went 0-2. He has gone Cinderhulk, so he's their solo frontline. And against the likes of an Ezreal, Kha'Zix, Azir, a lot of damage will be flung his way in a team fight, and potentially, that is a weakness for them right now.
Yeah, I think potentially it is. I agree with you on that point. However, I just think Viger's ability, as he continues to scale up in this game, to make a team fight 5v4 is pretty dangerous still. And he's fallen down in a little bit of CS, but really they're not hurting him all that badly.
And this is one of those things right there, as you saw already, just caged the minion wave. Means that Claire doesn't really have a good angle to hit the turret, so he's very good at holding. Because that cooldown is short enough, he can use it basically every wave. Yeah,
as we see Swathe one more time caught out, flag drag away. I think he's used that more defensively than offensively this game, for sure.
But as
he's not down in levels. He's not down in CS. He's got himself a giant belt.
He's doing all right.
Yeah, he's okay. He's not great. He's okay.
I guess on the flip side, you would have liked to see Sybil with that early game advantage. He did get that pick up, that early kill. You'd like to see him be a bit more aggressive.
Yeah, 100% you would. As now Series gets caught out in the jungle, a 3-level advantage means that he is much tankier with that Frozen Heart.
He's fine.
However,
Absolutely.
I think he was looking to fling an ultimate at mid lane and try and break open that turret. Instead, he just leaves Paprise in the top lane and still will leave Paprise in the top lane to just one more time continue to build this big gold lead. So they're not trying to break the gangplank lane. They're trying to break mid lane. And here we go. Slow hits. Misses the return serve. Ultimate thrown out from Ezreal. They will get the turret, but they don't get the kill.
The saving grace is it's low enough they get it anyway, but Series just, instead of hitting the ulti, walks around the wall. Yeah. Just nothing. Just a whole lot of nothing there. But Legacy were committing a lot. Every single wave bot lane, they would push in that wave, and then Deco would float up to the mid lane. Series obviously floated from top down to mid, so they were committing a lot of resources, wave after wave, slowly accruing that chip damage, allowing Claire to hit the turret, and it does ultimately net them in that first turret gold.
Yeah, it certainly does, but one more time, Tectonic just really not looking to fight at the moment. Means they give up an Infernal Dragon. In the top lane, however, Series is starting to take some serious heat from these kegs. You can see that this lane has started to flip on its head. Sybil goes in looking for Shock, will not find him. And they're just going to use this mid lane pressure right now to continually go back bottom lane.
Swathe knows it.
Yep, you can see that Swathe is sitting here, hovering his lane, trying to give some pressure relief.
And this is what team play is. The bot lane has been just pushing up or attempting to push up against this Sivajana and constantly floating mid. And now that that has been successful, you see Claire pushing in the mid lane and then floating bot.
Oh, as meanwhile in the top lane, Series has to burn the flash. Paprise continuing to stream forward. Cancels an auto, cancels 2, flashes that, and will be able to get the slow. However, Series continues to run away, unstoppable, looking for the return kill. Gets shot in the head and will not fall down. 30 health is what the number I saw. Just lives, and now you can see Azir trying to make his way into the top lane. I think that the gangplank's going to be too quick. They're not going to catch Captain Jack Sparrow. So he just will strut out.
Such a close fight between these top laners. A Series barely having that ulti available, but didn't amount to anything in the end. Had to flush away from Paprise. He tries to follow, but unfortunately can't pick up the kill here, as we do see it one more time. Series ultimate not just available right now. Does flash out of the GP ulti to lose some of that damage, but as you see here, once again, I think he cast it the wrong way. He would have been able to hit it back onto Paprise and CC him for a little bit longer, potentially pick up a kill if he chose to keep diving, but Paprise, that was low.
I called it, one cancelled auto. That's what he lived by, one cancelled auto. So again, little mechanical errors from Tectonic are costing them big in this game. Still within a couple of thousand gold. So I would call it touching distance.
Yep. Because we do have the Ardent Saucy pickup from Tilting. Throwback to the previous meta where you have just Janna first iteming that one. He does pick up the boots for free, I might add, and the Sightstone, so didn't rush it, but still has that item completed now, and they do get a fair amount of value on that in terms of not just the Sivir, but the Gangplank autos. They do significant amount of damage, so does the Jarvan.
And Series now without any summoner spells is once again being a little bit bullied. You can see they've rotated Gangplank into the bottom lane, so they obviously think that they can match wave clear in the top side and allow Swathe and Paprise to try and take some turrets bottom lane. And I don't think the rotation will be there in time. I think that Paprise actually might be able to put some work in here.
And that's kind of the saving grace for Tectonic right now. In terms of map pressure, he's got a 1.8k gold lead. It's 0-0-0.
Yep.
Gangplank.
Gangplank.
Gangplank. He's a bankplank. Everything's a bankplank. No one's getting punished.
Yeah, exactly right. And you can see this is very safe wave clear. And if it ever goes wrong, he actually uses the ult to try and save the turret.
But this is what I was saying, right? Tectonic, he's slowly getting this advantage in the bot side, previously the top side, but they just have no map control. They are within touching distance, like you said, 2K-ish between them right now.
They're actually sending lots of member up here. That's going to be the teleport out of the gangplank. So much damage done, and Sybil has just deleted Shock, which means that now Paprise is teleporting into a full team, and he will fall down. The team fight going all Legacy's way. Low flashes forward, not able to pick it up. Tilting is very low, still giving shields over to his 80 carry. Series in a little bit too deep. However, is just a fridge of a man right now. Ornn just not going to take any damage, and they back away with a 2-0.
They do look for that dive on the top side. Paprise, unfortunately, TPing into multiple members, gets a huge keg. Gets Claire so incredibly low that incredibly low, that low.
Flash
Tries
forward.
to pick up the kill
Yep.
with his flash, but unfortunately can't. So Legacy go 2 for 0 right now and net themselves a turret. But this is what I was saying. They are slowly, ever so slowly losing.
Teleport coming mid lane. Claire has to dash away. Will not be able to go any further. Gets ultied, and goodbye.
That's the budget outplay button. It's budget Syndra. He just walked in, hit the ulti button, walks away.
I mean, arguably, it's better than Syndra's, because late game will do more damage,
Yep.
and you don't have to cast any spells beforehand. As we see what's happening to Shock, he's clearly watching the team fight, misses his E as well. You want to cast it on top of you, so you can just dance either side.
Yep.
Guarantee that stun.
And that was the biggest deal coming through for Legacy here. Kha'Zix picking up that kill. Veigar, just a huge upfront amount of damage for Tectonic that they rely on to win these fights.
Yep.
So Sybil being able to find himself behind Shock there, catching him unsuspecting. MVP of the team fight right there for Legacy.
For sure. But still, Paprise, who's going to beat on this bottom lane turret.
Does get it. And Ray just lets him walk away. Gangplank sitting on 2 items right now. Got that Sterex, got that Triforce available, so Raid alone doesn't want a piece of that.
Yeah, shout out to Ejim here. If you want to know what to play top lane, what to build, what color your hair should be, ask Parbu. I know one of the things that you said when you first became a caster, quiet, like let me go, is that you don't think that necessarily your solo lane matchup is the best. What are you going to ask Parbu?
Why Gangplank's not being punished?
Why How do you punish Gangplank?
Why is this happening?
Can you punish it? It's been happening so much that eventually you just have to say, it's not working.
Yep.
Get rid of it. There's a reason we give you ban.
Yep. And I mean, Riot has done that to some degree with 8.2 Klepto. You mentioned earlier in the day that was the straw that broke the camel's back there for Gangplank. Nerfed significantly for ranged champions, so Ezreal gets hit harder than the Gangplank, but still a heavy user in the top lane there. We do see this game is fairly slow. 23 minutes, there's a bit of an advantage. 4K for Legacy. They have got themselves an Infernal and the Air Drake, but they haven't looked at the Baron yet.
Yeah, it still hasn't been that big dance. We've seen how quickly Azir can do that one. And it was actually a death cap picked up for Shock, so going to have some pretty big scaling right now.
Decoy takes literally no damage.
Yeah.
Doesn't even break the shield.
Come on. The door is just...
Can't break the door.
Do you know that Ornn created his door? And they're on the same team. I wonder if Braum thanks him at the start of it.
Probably. Braum was one of the first champions to get those cute little like individual champion reaction lines, I think.
Yeah, it certainly was. As we see, once again, a dragon will be taken. It's an Infernal Drake. I just don't know if you can afford to give over 2 Infernal Drakes to an Azir comp. And they're really trading it for farm on Paprise, who's already pretty farmed.
There's Legacy looking to push in the mid lane, and that's what I was saying, right? They just really have no control. They are holding on by a thread, but when and where do Tectonic start winning this game?
Well, it's not
Is it
going to
here?
be now because Paprise has been caught out, gets knocked up, gets a massive shield, flashes forward, looks for the Q, and he just lives. But now the rest of the team is collapsing.
Tectonic
Paprise, with no one here, will finally get a Janna shield, and in goes Claire. What a play. Nearly one hit's tilting, and that means Paprise will fall.
Raid on the back end there, picks him up, but tilting could have been the saving grace for Paprise there, but unfortunately Claire sees him coming, goes over the wall, almost one-shots the Janna, has to use that Monsoon to keep himself alive, but Legacy is still looking.
Yeah, exactly right. They want the Baron here. 2 members are dead. No teleport available for Gangplank. No reset out of this team fight, so they start up the Baron. They do it so insanely quickly. Swathe can look for the steal. He is a level down. Shock can potentially look for the steal, and Claire actually goes over the wall, so not going to be able to stop Swathe getting in here. Flag, drag, uses the ultimate. He just wants to kill Sybil, but will not be able to get him. Now Claire by himself, just continuing to harass, dashes forward onto Low, says, I want this fight, and there is nothing Low can do. He has to run away, and Claire single-handedly zones 3 members of the Tectonic lineup in Shock.
They're still chasing, but are they going to get in there? The cage comes down. Raid can go over the wall. Nicely
he can one-hit Raid here. Actually, Raid.
Ooh,
he
late
just turned around.
stopwatch.
Is
he dead? No.
Where's he? Oh, he's not got the ulti.
He hasn't got the ulti. The Q cooldown just not available there, but as you said, Claire zoning off 3 members. Unfortunately for Swave, he does find his way into the pit. Claire went over the wall, so the Emperor's Divide does not keep him out, but went too early. Legacy is sitting on 2k health with the Baron, and they're like, no, I'm not going to be hitting this one. Swave can't do enough damage himself and has nobody around as well, so can't get the steal.
And that was a clean Baron. An area that in the past we have been critical of Legacy was their Baron takes.
Yep, absolutely.
That was a very clean Baron.
Is Sybil the result? Is he
or more importantly,
was Carbon the problem? I've had many a conversation with old Timmy Carbon Wendell about how he thought the Legacy Barons were very good when I was on the Chiefs, and we on Chiefs were like, Legacy Barons? No, thank you. Just, that's not a thing. They don't start it up, but here they do. They pull the trigger, sit at about 2k. Really well played by them.
Yeah, it certainly was. You could see Shock thought that he could pick up a steal with his W, which would be doing a lot of damage at the moment. However, was not the case. And across the board, 7,000 gold is the lead for Legacy. They have all the items that they want right now. They're looking to continue to pressure Tectonic in their base, and whilst Tectonic have felt like they have not taken on as much water this game, Bryce, they are still just not rowing in any direction. And they're continually under fire.
Yep, and Veigar will really struggle to clear these waves, but an interesting little interaction we just saw. He can put up the cage and then give Low some space to be able to hit that one. Ricochet clearing out the minions, and they do have the Janna shield to slow down this push by Legacy, but they do have themselves about a 6,500 gold lead here. They do have the poke coming out of Azir, out of Ezreal.
And potentially,
double
you know,
Infernal.
the 550 CS Civil Win condition is the last thing they really
are
are looking for, because as you said, it's about 300 CS away. And it doesn't look like Legacy will give them that time. Another turret falls, a big minion wave mid lane that they can Baron up. And Paparize, whilst he has had a good individual game, has not impacted the map at all.
But how much does the Baron influence this 1v1? Paparize, I think, eventually will win it. Series just kind of dodging around the barrels here. But
yeah, you can win it, but as soon
team's
as they
coming.
start bringing over 5 members, you'd probably lose it.
Oh.
Not going to hit that. Sybil goes stealths it, and yeah, you just don't want anything of that, Sybil.
And Ezreal get it?
Oh,
nice.
There, goes back over the wall, gets the slow. Sybil continually dashing forward.
Really nicely played from Swathe there.
Hit the
Raid
blast
was
plant.
flanking, but he hits the blast plane and pops him over that wall, so he had to arcane shift back to get into range and then couldn't hop over that dragon wall. Not dragon wall, the golem wall, unfortunately. But in terms of composition, Paparize is their strength right now, and they have such a good hold in the 4. They have that attack speed that they can give to Sivir through the Jarvan. They have the defensive utility of the Janna to hold onto the turret, and Veigar, we've mentioned, is very hard to dive with that cage, so all they need to do is buy time. They will eventually drop these inner turrets like they did in the bot side, and they inevitably will here.
But the inner turrets aren't really your concern, right?
Absolutely not.
You just want to keep them out of your base. And Gangplank is 3,000 gold ahead. To just put that in context, we would be talking about an 11,000 gold lead if Gangplank was any other champion in the game. However, we're not.
So unfortunately, the 0-2-0 Gangplank has 3,000 gold. He's chilling. He's chilling, but is it enough? That's really the story of this game. Is Paparize with this lead on the Gangplank enough?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, also the fact that Shock doesn't have the items, doesn't have the levels, but has your scaling AP that's just stacking up from every Q that he throws out.
And I mean, the best games from Tectonic, then called TM last season, were those games where they were just trying to hold on. They had the Janna Cogmore, they had the Lulu Cogmore, they were playing around low, hyperscaling Ardent Sensor meta, and that was their best looking games, I think. Those are the ones they could hold on to for a long while, and they didn't win a lot of them, but they were much more competitive than the earlier ones in the season.
By the way, when Bryce says they didn't win a lot of them, I think he means they didn't win any of them. Just, I mean, pedantic, yes, but I am a man of the people.
You're a technically correct person.
Yeah, I'm a technically correct. Well, technically you were correct as well.
Yeah, and you didn't like that one, so you're not a technically correct person. As Legacy pick themselves up another dragon. Ocean, at this stage of the game, 30 minutes in, 9k gold lead. Not going to do a whole lot, but
we've been so close to Storm, Earth and Fire every time. Last time Air mucked it up. This time, actually, you know, both times Air have mucked it up, just in different ways. So we'll see an aggressive play out of Claire. Puts up the turret. It's actually max level right now. Level 18.
Yeah.
Has had a fantastic game. About to, he has. He's Flame Horizoned. I mean, we talked about what he needs to do to become the best player. If you Flame Horizon your opponent every single time.
Yep, that's a pretty good indicator of being a good player here.
Tick.
Absolutely. Checking off all the boxes. Paparize potentially in a bit of trouble here. The Ornn ulti comes out. Does land, but with 4 other people around there and the Veigar cage. Not going to do a whole lot there. Does not get taken down, but is half HP and gives Legacy access to this mid lane.
Flag drag just misses, and low! Falls very low.
He's low. Oh, Ezreal ulti comes through, looking for the snipe, but unfortunately doesn't pick it up there.
C-Series using the Unstoppable very well there. Just walked out of the cage.
Just buffer in the CC. Oh, interesting. Yeah, you can get all the way through that.
Just walk through.
Nice. Nice. Also, doesn't even need the Mercs.
No.
Normally you play against Veigar and you're like, all right, boys, it's Mercs time. But he opts in for the tabbies, for the gangplank, for the Sivir, and then can just W through the Veigar, so he's chilling. He's chilling.
Certainly is, but I would say the rest of Tectonic right now, whilst not chilling, are still relatively relaxed.
Well, for the next 52 seconds or so when Baron is spawning, Legacy really struggled to break the base here. We did say Tectonic
What they need is they need deep vision.
with an on flank.
No, for Tectonic. I mean
Okay.
for Tectonic. They need deep vision. They need Shock to be able to run up behind either Raid or Claire, while Decoy's like off trying to frontline somewhere. They need to be able to like,
Get
they need to
behind
send
the-
Shock on like the best reconnaissance mission, like behind enemy line style. He needs to dig himself a trench. It just needs to, like, I'm talking
Get
about...
underneath the door, you know, trench underneath.
Yeah, I would argue that a minute ago, it would probably be worth a tilting death to just get a ward real deep in that blue pit. To just get him in there.
I mean, he has the spellbook, right? So tilting can get a ward. Hit him with the TP in behind. But he obviously has a ghost right now. This Baron, as I said, is spawning in 5 seconds. Legacy not too worried about their bot lane in a turret. Doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah, why would you be? If this game goes for another 10 minutes, bottom lane turret is going to be the least of your worries, as they've got it down to 5,000. Game plan ulti will come out as
It
will
does
Dawn
damage.
ulti. They continue the damage this time,
Oh.
and Swain gets in, does not steal it, and will fall down. But that was incredibly close to a 50-50.
Swaith once again finds his way into the pit, but this time Legacy are hitting the Baron. That's 2 50-50 Barons they've come up with. Very luckily, I think. They are trying to buffer the CC there onto Swaith through the Brawl multi,
get
but
chunked out a little bit.
they are relying on that Brawl multi instead of the Azir to try and keep out Swaith. They do have access to both, but only ever pulling the trigger on one at a time. So this Baron, Tectonic have held one. Can they hold another without losing the structures in their base?
And we're kind of seeing the strength of Azir in a siege. He's got incredibly long range. He's poking them off the turret. He can put his turret up as well to make it a very long lane.
Shock.
And goes forward, looks for the ultimate. However, just does no damage and dies. And that will be the start of the team fight. Now Decoy Sybil in the base. Will fall very low. Actually falls down to his GA. And with how strong Paparize is, mistimes the keg.
So close.
Now continually looking for the fight. At a certain point, you feel they have to go low. Gets chunked out, gets killed, and Claire 414 is a monster. And now Legacy, the inevitability of the tree, will just roll into the base. They will take down one next to the turret. They will look for the second. And they're just looking to close out the game. Paparize, Swaith, they're not even anywhere near it. They actually are flashing onto Raid. What are they doing on the back end of this fight? Raid's just going to kill Swaith.
Swaith.
So
Looking at proxy to wave there, but
Jewel falls down, and now in goes Claire, picks up another kill, picks up a double for his trouble, and they will just take the game in 35 minutes.
And fairly clean out of Legacy there. That pick onto low at the end of that fight, onto Shock, meant that they were in that 4v5. Sybil does go down on your screen there, but the GA pops, and unfortunately Paparize can't answer. So the 4v5, Legacy just go forwards onto the Nexus, have the Baron. Tectonic just couldn't hold on.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, Legacy, as we said, we don't expect them to be a fast team. I don't think that's in their MO. If you talk to Soul Strikes, I mean, every coach likes to win in 20 minutes, but he wouldn't have that as a mark for success. He wants good, clean League of Legends. And I would say for the majority of that game, they played good, clean League of Legends.
I think the only downfall of that game was the series on the Ornn. And it was the gameplay. They weren't able to punish. We've been saying it time and time again, but ultimately, we asked the question several times, was it enough? And no, it wasn't. Paparize couldn't do enough in the side lane.
And really, if the criticism is your substitute didn't punish a top laner, and you're like, all right, well, that's fixed arguably next week when Mimic comes in. You hope so. That's what the reason they brought the man over. And Tectonic, that's a head scratcher. Because for the whole game, you're just saying, we can fight. Don't worry, guys. We're scaling up. Don't worry, guys. And then you just never fight.
At some point, you have to make the decision to be like, okay, when are we going to do it, guys? Like, it's not an infinitely scaling question.
And they're still in seats. I mean, they're not moving.
They're still practicing, back in the practice tool.
I don't know what that tells you, but if your whole team doesn't get out of their seats, I mean, potentially they're talking with the white noise on. Potentially this is something that they had planned to do, but I mean, honestly,
That's a
looks
rough
like
one.
a confused team.
Absolutely. You do see Paprise talking a little bit there, so they are obviously strategizing or talking over what went wrong that game.
Yep.
But interesting to see where they switch it up. We did say coming into the day we want to see them playing around the top side more, and that's exactly what they did. The Jana Siva was relatively successful, I think. It didn't win the bot lane, but it wasn't planned to. It didn't need to.
It did its job.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't get dove. They kept their turret up for a very long time. That was an improvement that we saw out of it. And I think stylistically, that's the bottom lane that we can both agree makes sense. The problem is that they had 2 scaling monsters in Viger as well as Gangplank.
Yep.
Didn't really accomplish much.
And I mean, like, you can give that criticism to Tectonic, but Legacy just played it by the book very well. They transitioned. They're like, okay, we're not going to be able to beat this bot lane, right? They're just going to be pushing out non-interactive gameplay, pushing the wave, sitting back. That's all they did. So they noted that, and they're like, okay, we're going to walk up the river, put that pressure on mid. Eventually, they get mid turret. Then they're like, okay, Claire, you've got the turret. You're going to push it in, put that pressure back down bot side. We take that turret. So they just played it by the book, very standard, clean League of Legends.
Yeah, I
just
agree.
took turrets all around.
But I think at some point, you got Jarvan, you got Gangplank, you got Viger. You should kill Azir. Like, I don't care how good your Azir is. As soon as you queue forward, I mean, just flash on him, put down all your
Flash
CC,
cage.
do whatever you want to do. At a certain point, you should just be able to flash ulti him, actually, if the damage registers from Cataclysm and Jarvan Ultimate.
Yeah.
And they just didn't make a proactive play. So whilst I agree, Legacy played very, regimented, very, very orderly.
Very Legacy.
Very Legacy. As I said, it looked like an inevitable victory. You can do things as a League of Legends team to be stuff this. We're just, I mean,
I'm just
you were
gonna
the
do
king of
something.
it. You were like, I am slowly losing this lane, which
I
I
am
don't
flash
agree with.
polving in.
I am flash pulping them. Quinn, you can come or not, but that is what I'm doing. And they didn't do that at all that game. However, to break it down further, let's throw it over to Laura Pabu.
Thanks, guys. We're back to break down that game. Legacy picked up the first game, but I want to start by talking about this Vega pick on the side of Tectonic. He's only been picked 4 times in other regions, but what do you think of him in the mid lane?
So Vega is a counter pick that Pawn brought out against Azir. And the idea is that the Vega, along with a strong jungle champion, can put enough threat onto the Azir that the Azir has to play respectfully and can't shove his wave in. And thus, the Azir is like scared and doesn't have pressure on the map. And then in teamfights, the Vega cage is very useful in stopping the Azir being free to move around. He can't dive your carries with his Shrima Shuffle combo, and he just has to be a lot more scared and do much less damage than he usually does.
And you were saying that the Tectonic draft was quite good, but maybe they were just probably mis-executing it a bit?
The Tectonic draft was functional, you know, it did things. They had a weak bot side that could defend easily. They wouldn't win, but they'd be able to kill waves and not die. And they had a strong scaling split pusher in Gangplank against the Ornn, who was going to eventually push him in and be able to take towers. And they also had their counter pick mid. So in isolation, they had a draft that worked, but they didn't end up executing it very well.
Well, we asked you guys at home to send in your tweets for this man right here. And the first one is from Sherwinterdina. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. But what to play to win top lane Silver Elo?
Well, when you're in the lower elo, you want to be playing simpler champions that are easier to execute, and it's very obvious what you want to be doing. So things like Pantheon and Malphite and Alawi, very straightforward champions that aren't too mechanically complex, but can still affect the game a lot, are quite useful champions. So I'd recommend those 3 if you want to climb in silver.
I second Malphite. He's my fave to top, as well as Jake Spawn Tiberius. Second question is from 6 AM Solo Queue. Best top lane champs to play / climb in patch 8.2.
In 8.2, the main thing that affects top lane is the nerfs to Frost Queen and the nerfs to Kleptomancy. So those things make champions like Alawi and Gangplank slightly less priority and moves down Vladimir's priority slightly, but I still think champions like Camille, Vladimir's still really good, so like Vladimir, Camille, Gangplank's still okay, and then other things like, you know, all your tanks, so your Maokai, your Ornn Malphite's always going to be really solid in solo queue, and you're going to be able to affect the game like really well with those champions quite consistently.
I want to ask you a question, because I've been trying to learn Vladimir since I know he's in the meta at the moment. And I know that he's strong late game, but I struggle with staying alive during the early phase of the game. Do you have any tips for me or other people that are trying to learn Vladimir on how to stay alive?
The main thing about Vladimir's early lane phase is you're going to, since he has a slow auto attack, you're going to be baited into using your Q on minions to hit them. But to remain even in the lane, you're going to want to be using as many of your Qs as you can on the enemy champion. So just try and focus on actually trading with them with your Q rather than last hitting minions, and that will help your lane phase a bit.
Thank you. Hopefully I can play better Vladimir now. Pac-Man Rage tweeted at us with a photo of Maokai. You know him. What's going on here?
Historically, Maokai's a bit of a... He's always been considered the potato tank, the tank with no skill. Maokai is a bit of a champion that, is always, 1v1 Maokai, high skill champion. But he's just a solid top lane tank that is very obvious in what he wants to do. He wants to teleport onto your carries. He wants to flank them, get in with his righteous glory. So yeah, that's what the Maokai's about.
Does he like you playing it or something?
Oh, he's a big fan of Maokai. When I played against him in relegations, I played 3 games of Maokai versus him, and then they banned it for the other 2 games. So it's got a bit of history.
And lastly, your friend Giles or Die tweeted in saying, "What's your favorite line from the Minions movie?"
Look, to be perfectly honest, in the Minions movie, there aren't many iconic lines. The Minions aren't known for their, for being particularly verbose. They're not very, they're not the most quotable characters, if I will say. But I do quite enjoy, a good bellow from a Minion,
What's this come from? Is there like a backstory to it though?
I don't know. Just I get given a lot of Minion things. I've been given a lot of Minion memorabilia of sort of things. I showed one on one of the AV shows the other day. I have this dining set of Minion stuff. My mom gives me lots of Minion stuff. I had a Minion advent calendar the other day. There's just lots of other stuff that I get that is Minion themed.
Well, thanks for your advice, Pavu. Now everyone knows that they can send you Minion-themed gifts if they would like. But don't go anywhere. We will be back with game number 2 between Legacy and Tectonic right after this break.
This time without his EQ available, will be caught out in the jungle. Has Flash, goes back in, and they're actually going to look for their kill. Sybil turns around, flashes back over the wall, and picks it up. However, trades this one. This is big. Shock now caught out. No Flash available. Uses that stopwatch, and actually the flash over the wall from Tilting, and he dies as well. However, Series continues to run away, unstoppable, looking for the return kill, gets shot in the head and will not fall down. That's going to be the teleport out of the gangplank. So much damage done, and Sybil has just deleted Shock, which means that now Paparize is teleporting into a full team, and he will fall down. The team fight going all Legacy's way, gets a massive shield, flashes forward, looks for the Q, and he just lives. But now the rest of the team is collapsing. Paparize, with no one here, will finally get a Janna shield, and in goes Claire. What a play. Nearly one hits Tilting. Now continually looking for the fight. At a certain point, you feel they have to go low. Gets chunked out, gets killed, and Claire 414 is a monster. Now in goes Claire, picks up another kill, picks up a double for his trouble, and they will just take the game in 35 minutes.